So here I've just added all the applique flowers, and I'm just doing, here is when you cover up all the bits that are a bit, you just freehand and do the leaves in kind of an embroidery fashion. And you can do this quite quickly, just pipe a little leaf outline and then just zigzag back and forth inside the leaf, and it's as simple as that, and it looks really, really sweet. And just fills your design out to cover up more of the cake, and it's really quick to do. So.
Oh, that's really nice. Just little zigzags is all it is.
Yeah, so you just pipe a leaf or any shape you want, and then you just zigzag back and forth. And quite often I like to do this around sort of lacy areas, just to, as I said, just to fill out the design a lot more. And because it's got a slightly different look to it, it makes it a bit more interesting. And if you notice on real pieces of lace, you'll see this. You'll see maybe the flowers are done in one way, and then the leaves that are coming off the flowers are just stitching. They're not as thick as the flowers that are on the piece of lace. Well, then usually the bride's dress, that's what we do.
Okay.
Mainly.
All right. Sorry.
And then I just cut out some little circles and pretended they were sequins and added a few dots and a few little white, do you call them dragées over there?
Yeah, dragées or dragées.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people say it in a lot of different ways, but those things, the little pearly things.
yeah, just here and there.
All right, that's really pretty. I love that. Okay, and then here's like a close-up of the final product. And I love.
So you can see, just the big pipe flower, and then the applique flowers around.
Yeah, I love how it has the. It looks like it's a needlepoint embroidery. It really does. I love that. And I guess that's what you were going for, huh?
Yeah, I did have somebody's actual lace to get work from this, and I made this on somebody's wedding cake first. Actually, I should have sent you a picture of that. That was done, it was just an ivory cake with white and ivory on top of it.
Oh,
and for the wedding, when we set it up, they actually had fresh flowers in between the tiers. And then flowers all around the base and on the top. So when I did it, I was like, this is beautiful. I'm going to do this design for my next book. Only because it's got a combination of that kind of embroidery effect and the applique together. So,
awesome. Yeah. Well, it's gorgeous. And then here's a picture of it again, all done and pretty. Can I ask, did you take this picture?
No. That's a good thing about my books. They have a professional photographer to
very nice
to take it. Or if you see my Facebook pictures on my Facebook page, they're not so good. They're just iPhone, quick snap before the cake goes out, and that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah. But it's nice to be able to style a cake for a stylish shot for a photograph, and sort of add in the props and get the right light and just make it look pretty, but unfortunately I can't do photography that well.
I actually had when I had my actual cake business, doing actual cakes, I had a cousin who is a photographer and lived really close to me, and it was so nice to be able to have her be able to just come and take pictures for me. I think having a good cake picture is worth so much. It's so much. So yeah, if you can't afford or find a photographer around, definitely I would suggest taking some classes on cake photography, but definitely worth looking into. Okay, so these are little cupcakes with the same design on them.
So in quite a few of my books, I always have a main cake and two matching projects that go with it, so taking elements from the cake. So here we've got cupcakes, just using the applique part of the cake design. And then in the next photo that I think you're going to show, that has just the main flower embroidery part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just showing how you don't have to just do it on a cake, but it can be translated onto something else.
Well, and also, it could be combined into a whole, the tableaus, the whole table worth of that's a really big thing right now, is having
Yeah,
a
exactly.
dessert table and having the cake be the centerpiece of this whole, a cake table. So, I
Hmm.
mean, having something like this is so perfect because you can actually incorporate it into everything.
Yeah. I think you've just got to be careful though if you're doing a big dessert table. Can you imagine trying to do 100 of these cookies or 100 cupcakes with all that decoration? So
Yes.
if I was doing it, I would probably minimize the size of the cookie and just maybe take one flour element or two and not go too crazy.
Yeah, this is
Unless I
definitely
wanted to pay, of course, for all that work.
exactly. This is something that you would charge a lot for,
Yeah,
and possibly bring in help
yeah, yeah,
because it's a lot of work.
yeah.
All right. Okay, so we've got some pictures here of different cakes that you have done.
Hmm.
And are these in your book, or are these things
So
that you
these
find
are
in
all
Craftsy?
these are more lace cakes that I've just sent over. So the first one on the left is the actual craftsy cake that we do in two of the lessons. So we
Okay.
cover the embroidery side. Then the one on the right is just one I do. Actually, it's got quite popular. I've got one this week, but just in 3 tiers. And that's done in the same way as the craftsy cake. So by pressing the actual lace into the icing and then piping and doing brush embroidery and over piping the design.
Great.
That's those two.
Okay, and then we've got these
Yep.
gorgeous cakes.
And then these two we both also look at in the craftsy class. They're both kind of appliques. The one on the left's just literally cut out hundreds of stephanotis. So get everyone involved, get your family involved. My husband's done one of these kind of designs, just punching out lots of blossoms, sort of sat there with his hand like this. And how much longer have I got to go?
How many more of these do
So
I
you
need?
can, you can. So long as, obviously they keep it nice and thin so it looks nice and delicate still. Men can sometimes be a bit heavy-handed.
Yes.
The cake
You have to
decorating side.
be, yep. You have to be particular about things sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's all that is. And then just there's separators between the tiers. And I've just hung some of the blossoms down just from the tip at the base of the cake, so it looks like they're like lace hangs kind of below at the bottom of
Yeah,
the dress.
I
They're
love
really
that.
easy, but it looks really effective.
Major effect
Hmm.
for not a whole lot of
We
work.
did this in round recently and in pale pink with white on top, and it looked really pretty.
Oh, how pretty. I love
Yeah.
it. All right, and the other one is that just flower cutouts that you?
Yeah, just flower cutouts and then layering them up and
Hmm.
drying them slightly cupped. And then you can't see too well in this, but I've actually piped brush embroidery around every single edge.
Oh, wow.
Um, so you see it better close up. And then after the icing dried, then brush luster all around the edge as well. So it kind of just shone on the edge and the edge was sort of textured. But you can't really see it in this picture,
And
unfortunately.
yeah, without the detail. Yeah. Okay, and here's a couple more. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, both inspired by dresses again. The one on the left is obviously repetition. I've made that a couple of times since in slightly different colours. It's just ovals with what's the name for that cutter? Anyway, it's kind of a pointy cutter that I think is quite Moroccan. I can't remember the
Yeah.
name.
Is
And then
it
just
a hydrangea? Is that what it is?
no, I can't. It's kind of like a hydrangea would be, but it's tiny, tiny.
Oh, okay.
And then it's just pipe dots below. And then the other one, again, that one's in the class where it's cutouts and then a bit of a veining stick to give texture to the paste. And then again, brush embroidery around the edges and pearl luster dusting, pipe centers with more dragées in the center.
Awesome. I love how you use the texturing of, actually putting the details into the fondant and then piping over it and, doing brush embroidery. I think that's brilliant because it adds so much
Yeah.
depth and dimension to it. Definitely.
I think just by looking at a dress, that one came from a dress, and just by looking at it, you kind of think, okay, how do I create that element? But then it's also got this here, so how do I do that part? And you kind of just build up just by looking at something. Do you know what I mean? That's how I think.
Oh,
People say,
absolutely.
oh, how do you find that? And you just need to look at something. But I think you do sort of get better the more you do it. And when you look at something, at first, probably a few years ago when I started out, I wouldn't see things in the same way I see things now. And that also goes not just in cakes, but also photography that we were talking about. I say, okay, how do I make this picture? Just take a picture. Whereas now, just from shooting my books and from listening to the photographer, it's all about light and depth and seeing what things stand out and what things don't. And it's almost like layering. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also a lot of, I've learned quite a lot about just colour, just from making cakes, and in general. You learn a lot about colour and what colours make colours and what colours look nice on another colour and what doesn't look nice on another colour. If that makes sense.
All right. Great. Yeah. That does make sense. Okay, so then we've got a couple of other cakes that are, it looks like, inspired by dresses again.
Yeah. So the one on the right was by the dress in the background, and that's just that's actually just applique, but I've sort of freehanded it. So I've cut out shapes with cutters, and then I've kind of gone in and done my own, changed the outline slightly, and then I've distorted the shapes quite a lot and then stuck them on. And then, again, it's quite hard to see, but in the one on the right, just the flowers I've overpiped. So the flowers around the outline, so the flowers do sort of, well, they're supposed to, I don't know if you can see that, but they should pop out more than the leafy shapes, which is quite nice. And then the one on the left, that's just all done using the CK lace molds.
Yeah, I did recognize those.
Yeah, and the main flower, the bigger one, so on the top there's 1, then 2, then 3 on the bottom tier, that's just using one end of the mold, it's not using the whole mold.